Hi, Ben.
Hey Andre, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. And you?
Yeah, just been really busy, but yeah, just try to keep all the things floating. So yeah, how's your vacation?
Yeah, it was really good, thank you.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I missed the meetings a few times
Yeah, no worries.
between vacations and work. It's been
It's been just
either
crazy,
way
right?
really busy as well. Yes.
Yeah, it's been very nuts. So yeah.
Okay. Let's see, do we have an agenda for today? Uh, yeah, today is June. Should I share?
Oh yeah, probably should be a good idea. It's the typical format.
Right. Summertime now.
Ah, gotcha.
Right. Does David usually join these meetings on Monday?
Um,
It's usually busy, right?
I don't
Mondays.
know. So it's been on or off, and like the last like couple weeks he hasn't been here, but he also mentioned that this month France has a lot of holidays, so he said he was gonna probably be missing a lot of the SIG. So I think that's probably what it is.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, I think to kind of like summarize since you've been out for a little bit. So the biggest thing that kind of has been going on in this SIG is, like my and Didisi's GitHub issues, but DDC wrote them, but it's been primarily me and him that's been working on it. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like figuring out how to achieve interoperability, like getting to that long-term goal. And so like we created a few GitHub issues. David's been great at looking at them. Um, and we are going to give a talk on these very issues at CDCon. So this is
Mm-hmm.
going to be talking about this conduit system that we've architected internally. Well, we haven't built it out, but we started thinking about how it could work, how, like what are the pieces that are needed, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of like the biggest thing. Another thing as well is that, so I've been working on like I said, this verifiability proposal for a while now for with security, and we got the proposal out, but one of the engineers did not want to vet it or like send it through, mostly because he was afraid of his security team not liking some of the comments. So what we decided was we will make a more specific verifiability proposal for cloud events, and we will also introduce the same proposal to CD events, because apparently I didn't know this. You can just have a an extension
Mm-hmm.
outside of cloud events itself. So this would be something that would be native to CD events, but that is just an extension of cloud events. So you just need to write the RFC, and then the SDKs fill in the verifiability portion. However, we are also going to submit it to Cloud Event, and if they are okay with pushing it through, then we don't have to do much with our SDKs, right? We probably still should abstract it, but we're just running through what will make them happy as well as us. It's always hard in open source world. Everyone has like different opinions and different concerns, and so and then trying to vet which concerns are you know, ones that we actually want to solve, as opposed to trying to solve everything, which is I feel like is a lot of what Cloud Events wants. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a little too, especially with security, trying to solve everything is very, very difficult. So yeah, so that's why it kind of like, we've been having this large back and forth. But um
Right.
so like I said, we're going to make it more specific, make the proposal more specific for a certain use case, and see if Cloud Events is happy with that. Because the biggest thing with Cloud Events is that it doesn't necessarily need to rely on something like an event bus, et cetera, right? So that was like their biggest concern is this use case, or our use cases seemed it was more central to an event bus. But yeah, like I said, I'll have more information probably here in the next couple of weeks. We're going to submit the proposal first to CDEvents, so expect that soon, in the next few weeks, and then to Cloud Events as well, and kind of like do them in tandem. And so that's going to be the approach. And then on top of that, like I said, me and Didisi have been working on this talk for Conduit, and for Conduit itself, it's going to be a fairly large system. Well, not fairly large. It's going to be a system that kind of supports interoperability and kind of like dictating like workflows. Well, not dictating, I guess, like just giving some sort of
Yeah.
thing that,
Orchestrating.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, some kind of giving some flow definition to the life of something, to the whole SDLC life, right? Um so yeah, that's kind of going to be the plan there. And I'm still doing a lot of work on that as well. But yeah, like I said, I'll have more updates on that, especially after, because
Mhm.
like it's busy right now just because of the talks, working on the slides, etc. So it's just been kind of hectic.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for the update.
Yep, yep.
On the cloud event extension, I know that there are some extensions that are stored in the cloud event
Yes, yes.
repo itself.
Mhm.
Is that how it's going to be, or is it actually going to be hosted in
It's gonna
as part
be
of it?
it's going to be an RFC on our end and also an RFC on their end. So it's going to be both. Best case, they accept it, but worst case, they don't accept it. That just means we need to do a little bit of extra work in our SDKs, essentially. So, which is not a
Mm-hmm.
big deal, because I've been working on the SDKs internally. So I've been doing kind of a good overpass on the UX of it and making it a little easier to use as well as a lot more flexible. So if we need to change something or add something, it becomes very, very easy. I
Mm-hmm.
will be able to submit this code. Don't mind you, the state is kind of still up in the air, but we have gotten all the approvals for contributing code. Okay. So it's
Yeah.
now just a matter of getting the last meeting, which is after the major Apple conference, which is today, which is WDC.
Yeah.
So I'm going to meet up with the lawyers, I think sometime the end of this month, and then get the final sign off. And then I'm going to take everything that I've been working on internally with the SDKs and kind of like ship it out in smaller PR to kind of, and then kind of explain it. Because like I said, this is relying on my past experience with like the AWS SDKs. And I know,
Mm-hmm.
what I've seen what works and what doesn't, especially like in a large user base. So I think you'll like some of the changes. And like I said, this is only for the Go SDK right now because I can iterate faster on the Go SDK. Once we have a good
Yeah.
working idea on how we want the SDKs to behave, if the patterns I introduce are are good and something that you like, Andre, we should then move it over to all the other SDKs so they all follow the same patterns, right? And then we need to figure out how we're gonna, we need to figure out how what the goal of the SDKs are, what the plan is, et cetera, et cetera. What are we trying to give to our users with these SDKs? We need to answer those questions. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but I think we need to answer them because I'll give you an example. Like David was did not think that we needed, or he didn't understand the scope that I was thinking in terms of SDKs. He was just thinking like a raw, like, just like a code generated SDK. But I'm like, no, SDKs need to be, I mean, they can be that, but we need to make it a little bit easier for our users. So, one of the goals being the end user experience, right? And then these are the features that are needed to get to that user experience, right? So I think that's something that we need to call out. And I can start that, like I said, once I get the okay from the lawyers.
Yeah, cool. Alrighty. Yeah, thanks again for all your dates.
Yep, yep.
Is there anything you wanted to go through or look at the issues for today or anything?
I don't know how I know you've just gotten back. How familiar are with you with the new recent issues from DC and I? Is there any questions that you have? Is there anything specific that you want to talk about there? Because me and David and DC talked about it in depth in the last not last two SIGs, but two SIGs before that, and kind of explained, and then Dedisi went out of his way to actually speak with David on Slack to kind of explain the whole thing. Because like unfortunately an hour wasn't enough because it is a lot of information, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, was there anything in particular that you had questions about? Or if you haven't read through them,
Um,
that's fine too, and we can
no, I mean, I had some chat about those with Dadisi as well before my holidays.
okay.
Um, so I don't think I have any specific question right now. So just you know whether there was some things that you wanted to discuss or some um yeah
Oh, yeah, there
um
was another thing that we need to do. This actually should be top priority. Um, this is actually the biggest thing. So right now, our like we have been very unopinionated on what anything means. I understand we need to be flexible, but because we are unopinionated, it makes interoperability impossible. Like for example, like source, like David did not like me and David had different definitions on what subject source meant. And I think we need to do a better job in explaining and giving very concrete examples and
mhm.
even giving saying like, if you were to run it to these like through this regex or through this validation, it would fail, for example, right?
Yeah,
And we need to be very, very specific. And that's true for everything, like what the ID means for subject versus context. What does the source mean for subject versus context, right? Et cetera, et cetera. So I think we need to be a lot more explicit and a lot more opinionated because as we were working through Conduit and we're working through all the different tools, me and Dedisi, we've had different definitions too, where we'll be talking and we realize our definition of source, for example, is completely different from one another. And then like,
yeah,
it would have been better if we just started on the same page, then we would have had like a useful discussion. But we waste like 20 minutes thinking we had the same definition only to find out we didn't, right? So,
yeah,
yeah, I think that's going to
yeah,
be very, very critical going forward, especially with this new service conduit. And I unfortunately have a lot on my plate right now, but I need to work on this, and I'm gonna try to get just context done, just like the context fields, because they're only a handful and submit that in a README or wherever our docs say and be very, very opinionated. Now, I'm going to be super opinionated, more opinionated than normal. And the reason for this is I want to make the definition so strict that when you chisel at it with a hammer, right, it just opens it up, right? So I feel like we should come at it very, very strict, and then through the review process, we open it as much as needed, right? I think that's probably the best way to go.
hmm yeah. I mean, the reason I totally get the interoperability thing. The reason why we're a bit generic in the beginning, that's mainly just because um, we didn't have a when creating the events in the beginning, there was no like someone using them and having like a more specific, like requirement. So we tried to make it generic enough, specific enough that, it wouldn't be totally open, but also we didn't want to restrict it too much without having enough experience in using the events to, fully understand what would be a good restriction. But I think we're getting to a place now where, um, yeah, especially with the conduit and the orchestration, you can have a much better idea what you might want there.
On what we're
And I
talking
mean,
about. Yeah.
we've had like a open standing issue that is exactly that, like define what sort should look like, because
Yeah.
yeah, you need to have a consistent structure there for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And this isn't a blame, Andre. Like I understand, like especially like this is something that's completely new, so like getting the definitions right the first time is not going to happen, right? Like that's
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
it's going to be an iterative process. So like I'm not placing any
Absolutely.
blame, right? So I'm just saying that this is something that we need to focus on now because like I said, we're giving a talk on conduit and we just
Yeah,
want to make sure, when we start building the system that we all have the same definitions, right?
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I think that's a good idea and a good plan. But like I said, I have a lot on my plate. So I will try to actually get this out. Oh man, I feel like every time I give dates, I always miss them. I will try to get them out as quickly as I can.
yeah,
I need to block something out on my calendar because I've just been so swamped with so many different things, and just focus on this. But yeah, I'll sit
yeah.
down and do that. Maybe just spend an extra hour today or something and just defining them.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good. Um, Perfect. I mean, the only other thing I wanted to mention, I've seen there's been few issues created. I mean, there seems to be some users,
Yep,
trying
yep.
to actually use CDEvents and in their environments. Um, Recently, some from a user called Thompson,
I'm not gonna
James
lie.
Thompson.
I originally thought he was an AI because of how he was answering some of the questions and whatnot. But then we actually talked to him on Slack, so he's not an AI. But like, I was like, dude, some of these responses are very AI like. I don't. So yeah.
Well,
But
maybe
yeah,
he refines them through AI, but
yeah, yeah, yeah,
let's
which is completely
anyway.
possible.
Anyways,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I will ping maybe David as well on this. I mean, I think it's great to see like people coming in and say, well, actually, we don't understand this, or maybe we have a proposal how to do things different, and because
Yeah,
they're actually
yeah.
trying to do things with city events, so that's really good. So I'll try to stay on top of the issue and answer all the questions, but if we can have input from other city events maintainer as well, like you or David mainly, I
Mhm.
guess, or anyone else who's interested. That's great. So yeah, I just wanted to bring it up. But yeah,
Yep,
it's
yep.
it's it's good. I mean, there's a lot of things happening, so that's brilliant. Um, yeah, I think I would then say maybe we stop here for today, unless you have anything else you wanted to bring up as
No, no.
we're.
My goal for today was if you're because I had a feeling you were enjoying today was this kind of like get you in sync with what's been happening in the space.
All right. Then, yeah, I mean, great chatting, Ben, as usual.
Yep,
And
yep.
thanks a lot. And looking forward to, when the final legal okay comes through.
Yeah,
And
agreed. Yep, yep, definitely. All right,
yeah,
Andre. I'll talk to you later then. All right.
take care.
All
All the
right. Have a
best.
good
Bye
one.
bye.
Bye.